Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today on Senior Fitness with Meredith. So today we're going to do our learning level video focusing on wrists and hands, both stretches and strengthening moves that you can do. So we'll go through a bunch of different moves, and as you'll see, I have a lot of different tools and things that you can purchase. If you already have them, you can go ahead and grab some of them. So what I'll be using to show with today, I have a dumbbell, I have a band, a nice long band that you can use. I have a rubber band, or if you have a hair tie type thing, those are good to have. You can use towels as well. So for all of this stuff, if you say all I have is a towel, you can go ahead and grab that towel. And then as you can see, I have lots of different tools. If you have any of those, which I'll get into later, you can grab them to join in with this learning level video we're going to do. So go ahead and grab your tools. We'll stay in our nice, comfortable, sturdy chair to do everything. So have a seat. Once you grab everything, I'll meet you right back here to go through it. Welcome back. We're ready to get started. So let's go into some stretches before we lift anything up. We're going to do some curls and circles with our hands. So what we just want to do is focus on getting that mobility in those wrists, those forearms, and those hands. So you go in one direction with a little circle and then reverse it. Go the other way around with those circles. These are something you can do, especially if you're on a computer throughout the day, on your phone, just stopping, doing this. Now down and up, so stretching through the wrist and forearm, and then opposite direction, wrist, forearm. So down and up, opening those hands. Stay nice and tall in your chair. Don't forget about your posture. And then we're going to make fists. We're going to squeeze, 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 and then I want you to just lengthen those fingers out as much as you can. So squeeze, 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 lengthen them out. Squeeze, 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 lengthen them out. This is good for arthritis too, in those hands and wrists. Let's just do a couple more. Squeeze them, lengthen them. One more squeeze, lengthen, and just a little shake out of those hands and wrists. Next one, we're not using any equipment. So again, another good one you can do throughout the day, especially if you're using those fingers, those wrists, using your computer still, on your phone all the time, etc. So it's called a prayer stretch. So you bring your hands into prayer position, you keep your fingers and the palms of your hands tight together. They come nice and close to your body. What you're going to do is just bring them down towards your belly. I want you to keep the palms together. Once you get nice and low, you'll start to feel that stretch in your wrists, your hands, and your forearms. Hold that and breathe into it. And then release it back to chest level. So we're going to do that again. If you're doing these on your own, just do 3 to 5 of them. Try and hold between 10 and 15 seconds each time. Hold and breathe and release it back. Chest level. Let's do one more together. Bring those hands. Palms are staying together. Feel the stretch. Breathe into it and release it back to chest level. Little shake out. Now another variation of our prayer stretch. Back in position. This time we're going to bring it towards our belly, but we're going to open the palms of our hands. So bring it down. We feel the stretch. Now I just want you to keep the fingers together. Deepen that stretch through your hands, through your fingers now as the palms open. Bring the palms back together. Lift it back up. Same thing with the first one. Trying to do 3 to 5 rounds on your own, holding for 10 to 15 seconds. So bring it down to belly. Once you feel the stretch, open those palms, keep the fingers close together, hold and breathe. Deepening that stretch through the fingers, hands, palms come back together, release it back up. We'll do one more together. Let's bring it down. Open up those palms. Palms come together. Bring it back up and shake it out. Now we'll go ahead and add some equipment, so more of a strengthening. Those were great stretches. Again, didn't need anything. Do them throughout the day. Perfect thing to do. Next, super simple, if you have a rubber band, if you get a newspaper, and you probably have a ton of these in a drawer somewhere, you can use a rubber band. If you have hair ties for yourself, from your granddaughter, from wherever it is that you get these, using one of those is perfect as well. So all you're going to do with that is you're going to place it around the tops of your fingers, all right? And then from there, you just open and close your fingers. Now if it goes too far back, which is perfectly fine, it might roll back onto your hand and kind of snap back, and then just put it back into place. But think about the strengthening you're getting in those fingers. So opening, closing. If it's a really loose rubber band, maybe you can bring it around twice, or when you open it, I want you to hold, breathe into that, and then release it. So just opening and closing. Do a few of those. You're going to start to feel, of course, your fingers. You'll start to feel into your forearm working because we're opening and closing from that forearm. So open and close, 10 to 15. If you're holding, you would hold about 5 seconds and then release it. You can do one side and then the other. So if you only have one rubber band or one hair tie, do right side, then do left. All right, let's just do a couple more together. And then release it. You can take those off, put them to the side, and a little shake out of those fingers. So just opening and closing. Think about like spiders, open, close, but we're adding that element of the rubber band because we're going to add that strengthening portion to it. So now I'll show a movement you can do to strengthen through your wrist and forearm using a dumbbell and or a band. So I'll start with the dumbbell. You'll have it in your hand, and remember, you'll do right side and left side. So you won't just do one side, even if one side feels weaker than the other. Always staying in one side. I'll show in my left hand just so I have the space. That forearm can either go onto a table of some kind or countertop, or if you can, place it onto your thigh. Palm is facing up, and allow that wrist to open up. You have the dumbbell in that hand, and all I want you to do is moving from the wrist, bring that dumbbell up, release it down. So the forearm is staying on whatever it is that it's on, whether it's the table, countertop, or your thigh. It's not moving. Think about movement from your wrist joint as we strengthen through the wrist and the forearm. So you'd curl that up. I want 10 to 15 of those depending on the weight. You start with very light weight or even just range of motion. Then you slowly add heavier weight to it. So 10 to 15, and then you'll just turn that arm over. Now the palm is facing down towards the ground. That weight is what we're using right now, is down, hanging, same thing. The forearm stays right where it is from the wrist. Bring that resistance up, release it down. Bring it up, release it down. So think wrist and forearm strengthening. All right, 10 to 15, slow and controlled pace, especially on the down. We want to just drop that weight. We're not going to allow that. And whatever you do on one side, I started with my left, I'd have to go over and do that on my right side. Same thing, 10 to 15, just movement from the wrist, going with my palm up and palm down. All right, breathing into those stretches. So that can be done with your dumbbell, but it can also be done with a band. So if all you have is a resistance band, you would place the band down on the ground, step onto it, bring the forearm back onto your thigh, countertop, table, same thing. Bringing that movement and resistance up from the wrist, curl down, curl down. So again, it's not a big range of motion to get that movement, to get that resistance, to get the stretch and strengthen. 10 to 15 one side, palm faces down, 10 to 15 other way. All right, whatever you do on one side, yes, you know, you gotta do on the other. So 10 to 15 on the other side, both with palm up and with palm down. All right, so that's pretty much the same thing that you're getting, that range of motion and that strengthening with a dumbbell or with the band. So whichever you have, whichever you prefer to use, those are what you will use. Next, we're just going to do some squeezes. And ball squeezes are wonderful. So when we started and we were kind of just getting everything warmed up and we made that fist and then we lengthened out, well, now adding resistance to that. So if you have a ball, a towel is great to use as well, or if you've invested in any of the resistance putty that they sell in many different resistant sizes. So this is extra soft. So extra soft, soft, medium, heavy. If you have it, you know the difference, or if you've ever had to use it, you just kind of work it through your hands and then you make it into a ball and it becomes that resistance. You just have to keep squeezing it. So putty is a wonderful thing. It's amazing for your stress levels. Like I said, I call this a stress ball because that's what it is. You're just kind of kneading it back and forth and your mind gets to just kind of go into wherever it wants to go. It's a wonderful thing to have throughout your day while you're focusing on an arbitrary task, possibly. So if you have putty or would like to invest in it, it's a great thing to have. Just make sure you close it up after so it doesn't harden too much because you want the extra soft and the soft to stay that way. You don't want them to become as heavy as the heavy because that's heavy. Same thing with the ball. You just squeeze it and release it, that stress ball. Squeeze and release. You're working through your fingers, wrist, and forearm just with this simple movement. Squeeze and hold and release. Squeeze and hold and release. You can even work on different fingers squeezing into the ball to work individual finger movements and strengthening. So your pinky, your ring, your middle, your pointer, your thumb, holding those for certain amounts of time. Squeeze and release. Again, whatever we do on one side, we have to do on the other. Those squeeze and releases. Squeeze into the stress ball. Again, another wonderful tool to have just laying around. If you're on a computer a lot during the day, have this close by. You get a short break, just put it in your hand, back and forth, squeeze. Just get those fingers working. Get the fluid going in them. Like I say with arthritis, that's the main thing we need to remember. Keep them moving. Keep that mobility. Keep the synovial fluid going in those joints. That tends to harden up when all we do is this. We don't do this, we don't do this, right? So having that close by, wonderful, wonderful tool. But you can do the same thing with the towel too if you don't have, of course, any of the putty. If you don't have the small stress ball, use a towel. Just squeeze into it, release it. Squeeze into it, move it around your fingers. Get it tighter, get it looser. Go back and forth with it. It feels good. You'll feel the fingers, the wrists, the forearms strengthening as well as stretching with that because we have to open that hand, get it around whatever it is that we're holding on to. So you can use that towel as well. Again, with those, I say just go until you feel like you've had enough of that tool. Because these, not necessarily just 10. You can keep going. It should feel good. And it might be helping with your stress level, right? So the towel can be used. We also have the rings that come in different intensities. So light, medium, and heavy. It's the same basic premise as the ball. You're just squeezing into it, trying to get the circle to not be a circle. You're closing up the circle in the middle and opening it. So again, if you get these or you have them or you've worked with them, you know as they go up in intensity and strength, they really go up and you can feel the difference from one side of your body to the other even. If you've had a stroke, I'm sure you've had to work with these. If you've had partial paralysis, these are wonderful to use to keep up strength in that part of your body and to build up strength in that side of your body. But even, like I just said, if you have partial paralysis from a stroke or just weakening on one side, whatever you do on that side, do it on the other as well. All right? So those are wonderful tools to have as well. And then one more tool I'll show you, and you may have seen these. You just basically put your fingers through them. So thumb goes through part of it, and then your fingers go through the other holes. And it's very similar to what I showed you with the rubber band. Same thing. We open up and close. So if you have that rubber band, it's working just fine. You don't have to invest in more little tools. This is doing the same thing. But these are wonderful because they give you different intensities. So we've got the light, we've got the medium, we've got the heavy. Because eventually this will start to feel super easy, even if it was more difficult to start with. So again, what you do on one side, you do on the other. After you go through whatever exercises feel best for you that you're adding into your workout and into your day, that first thing you start with, end with that. Those circles around, both directions, that up and down movement in your wrist joint, stretch it back out after you've worked it, and then clenching into a fist and lengthening those fingers back out. All right, so you'll end with those just like you started, and a little shake out after that. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed those. I hope you are able to put them into your workout to get that strengthening and stretching in your hands and your wrists that we all need so much, and it's so important to do throughout our day. Again, thank you. I look forward to seeing you next time.